All right, who are the champions currently that would do the best upper weight class? We have a set of champions in here, and obviously, this tier list is not going to be that long. It's just three tiers. We have would win the belt, puts up a good fight but loses, and then gets beat comfortably or even potentially stopped. We have all of the champions here, and I even included Justin Gaethje because he's the interim champ, and I also included Alex Pereira because technically he didn't really, lose his belt. He just vacated his belt. So I guess let's just start with Joshua Van. Let's just have this in order real quick. So let's just start with Joshua Van. I personally think if Joshua Van moves up to 135 right now, I think he gets beat comfortably, man. I think he's just too young, too inexperienced, doesn't have the same skill set as Piotr Jan. I don't think he puts up a good fight. I think he gets just beaten from pillar to post. Like, we haven't seen enough from Joshua Van. Like, we've only seen that fight against Brandon Royval, which was still his best win till this day. And that was a short notice fight for both of them. Well, for Joshua Van, but then again, you have to consider that Brandon Royval also accepted that fight. I mean, because he was supposed to originally fight Manil Cap, right? So that's his best win. And we don't even know if he's going to beat Tetsuro Taira. I personally don't think he's going to win. But to just, jump a weight class and fight someone like Piotr Jan, who I personally think is like, skill for skill, he's top five of all time. I think he gets beat comfortably, man. I think Piotr Jan could do it all. He's tested everywhere, proven to be elite almost everywhere. Meanwhile, Joshua Van is like, he's really just known for boxing. I know he could grapple too, but he's mainly just known for like dogging it out and just, boxing well and stuff like that. But I don't think it's gonna be that. I don't think it's gonna be enough, and I do think that Piotr Jan actually has better boxing than him. So I'm gonna put Joshua Van in here right now. It could change in the future, of course, seeing how Joshua Van would perform against Tetsuro Taira. But for now, I do have him at the bottom of the list. Then we have Piotr Jan. If he moves up to 145 and fights Volkanovski, I think he puts up a good fight but loses, mainly because of the size disadvantage that he has. He's not like a big bantamweight. Like, I think, for example, someone like Sean O'Malley could make featherweight, right? But someone like Piotr Jan, maybe he could also make a featherweight, but he's not going to be like big for the weight class or fit right into the weight class. He's going to be small for that division, right? Even though skill for skill, he's better than the majority of them, I just don't think he's going to have much success, especially against Volkanovski, who, despite being like 36, 37, he is still, amongst the elites of the elite. He's like top five, top four in the pound for pound rankings. And, I just don't see like Piotr Jan hurting him. At this point, in order to beat Volkanovski, really any version of him, you have to knock him out. And Piotr Jan is not really known for knocking people out. He couldn't even knock out Marcus McGee, couldn't knock any of these people out. His last stoppage win was like back in 2019 or something like that, or 2020 maybe. So I'm not gonna assume that he beats Volkanovski. Volk is also one of the most skilled fighters we've ever seen. So I do think he puts up a good fight, but eventually loses. I don't think he gets stopped either. Then we have Volkanovski. If he moves up to 155 to fight Ilia Topuria, I do think he gets beat comfortably again. At 145, obviously he got knocked out. You could say that, okay, he got knocked out the way he did because he made a 4-month turnaround. But I always think that, stylistically speaking, Topuria is going to be a nightmare matchup for him because Volk tends to leave his chin up in the air going backwards. And, Ilya is just too good at closing the distance, closing the range, catching you with shots. He's too accurate, too precise. And at 155, Ilya is even more dangerous. And Volkish is getting older and his chin is deteriorating a little bit. Like, he did get dropped by Diego Lopez in his last two fights, so it's like, I don't trust Volkanovski to do well at 155, especially against the same guy that knocked him out 135, who's now even stronger and better. So I do think he gets beat comfortably again. Ilya, I think if he moves to 170, I do think he puts up a good fight, but then loses. He could even potentially, he could be in here as well, man, because we have never seen him at 170. He's not going to be big for the weight class. He's going to have a massive size disadvantage compared to the rest of the guys. Like, can you imagine Michael Morales and Ilia Topuria in the same weight class? But obviously, he's not going to fight Michael Morales. He's going to fight Islam, who's still big for the weight class, to be fair. He's a big dude. I don't know where to put Ilya, man. I think maybe he puts up a good fight but loses, right? I feel like he's a better fighter than JDM, but he's not bigger, obviously. He's not taller than JDM. But I think he has a better ground game than JDM. But again, the main thing that concerns me is just the size, man. The size difference between them two. So maybe I can give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he puts up a good fight but loses. I don't think he gets stopped, but I could see him getting beaten comfortably where just Islam does the same thing that he did to JDM, lays on, Topuria, controls him on the ground and just 50-45s him or like 49-46, unanimous decision win. But to give Ilia the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to say he puts up a good fight but loses. Then we have Islam. If we assume he moves up to 185, or actually, wait, let's just acknowledge also Justin Gaethje because he's the interim champion. Um, yeah, gets beat comfortably. I mean, he's not, yeah, he's not as good as he used to be. And even in his prime, he would still get ragdolled up a weight class, But imagine Justin Gaethje versus Islam. This was actually rumored to happen at one point before Islam moved to 170. This was rumored to happen that he was going to get the title shot against Islam, but it didn't end up happening. But if he does move up right now, listen, he would just get submitted within like a round or two, so this is not even a debate. Then we have Islam Makhachev. Um, I do think he puts up a good fight, but loses to Chimaev. I think Chimaev is just too big, and he's not going to get easily taken down and controlled and stuff like that. I think it's going to come down to the size, right? They're both some of the best wrestlers and grapplers we've ever seen in the UFC. I don't see either of them, destroying the other or submitting the other. They're just way too elite for that. But in a hypothetical matchup, Islam versus Chimaev, I do think that Chimaev gets this one done at 185. At 170, I do favor Islam, but at 185, Chimaev is more tested. He's more experienced in that weight class. He's also just overall bigger. So, yeah, I think maybe striking-wise, Islam is better, but I don't think that's going to be the equalizer. I think Chimaev's sheer strength or sheer size and brute strength, I think that's going to make the difference, right? Then we have Khamzat Chimaev. If he moves up to 205, I think he would win the belt. Personally, I think he does beat Carlos Olberg. I think maybe if he beats Strickland and goes up to 205 and fights Paulo Costa for the interim belt, I think he also beats Paulo Costa. I think he beats Olberg. I'm not going to overestimate him too much because he did go the distance with someone like Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns, so he's still human in a sense. He's not like as as invincible as people think. I know if we're going to go off his, last performances against Dricus and Whitaker, he looked really good. But, let's see how he looks at 205 against someone like Paulo Costa and Carlos Olberg. But I do think he beats both of them. And I do think he would win the belt. He is just too elite on the ground. These guys are not that tested on the ground. So, yeah. Carlos Olberg, the current light heavyweight champion, he's obviously going to be out for a while. How does he do at heavyweight? I'm tempted to put him here, but I think he puts up a good fight. I think he has the stature, the size, the reach, the counter-punching skills to put up a good fight against someone like, let's say, Cyril Gane and Tom Aspinall. But I do think he eventually gets beat because these guys are just more used to being at that weight class, right? Like Cyril Gane also moves fluidly and has really good striking skills. I believe that Cyril Gane is the best striker in heavyweight history, right? So if he fights him, it'll be a striker versus striker matchup, and I do favor Gane in that fight. And I don't think Olberg is going to shoot takedowns, of course, right? And with Tom Aspinall is just, versatile, well-rounded, one-punch KO power. He could also strike at the highest level. He will just take him down and just submit him, I feel like. But I don't know, maybe against, I don't know. I think maybe he stays here. Like, I know he knocked out Yuri Prohaska, but it's like, does that mean that he will knock out Tom Aspinall? No, of course, because Prohaska's IQ is in the negatives. I just don't know. Like, when I consider him versus Cyril Gane, I think that will be a good fight, where I do think he will lose a decision. But when I think of him versus Tom Aspinall, I'm sitting here like, maybe he stays here or something, But I'm going to say here. I'm going to say he's in the middle. I'm not going to, underestimate him too much. I do think he's, underappreciated in a way. I'm not saying that we have to sit here and start glazing him as a champion, but like skill for skill, I think people are underrating him, so that's why. And then finally, we have Pereira, who is no longer the champion, but he's fighting for the interim heavyweight championship on the White House card against Cyril Gane. He technically didn't lose his belt, so I'm still going to include him on this list. How do I think he does up a weight class against the champion? Does he win the belt? Does he put up a good fight? He's really between those two. I don't think he gets beaten comfortably. I don't think that happens, right? That'll be catastrophic if it happens. But does he win the belt? Does he put up a good fight? I really don't know. I do favor him to beat Cyril Gane by decision. I don't think he stops Cyril Gane. I think Cyril Gane is just way too slick and way too fluid on the feet. Um, I don't think he just kind of like cuts off the cage and just starts teeing off on him or something like that. I don't think Cyril Gane will also panic on the feet. You know, he's not like Magomed Ankalaev. He's just better at striking than him. But then you have Tom Aspinall, and does he get past Tom Aspinall? I really don't know. You know what? Screw it. I'll just put him at would win the belt. And I'm going to base it off of their last performances. Like, Pereira looked damn near invincible in his last fight against Ankalaev. Meanwhile, Tom and Cyril Gane looked like, you know, if they showed up like that against the last version of Pereira, and especially heavyweight Pereira, I think they may lose to him. But then again, you know, you're only as good as your last fight. You know, so we don't know if Tom Aspinall is going to come back and look exactly the same or worse or better. And same thing with Pereira. We don't know if he's going to look as good or worse and maybe a little bit more stiff and rigid at heavyweight. So, but I do think that he would win the belt. I think if he gets past Cyril Gane, he definitely has a good chance of beating Tom Aspinall. Like, I would say he would win the belt. I'm not super confident about this pick, but I will put him up here on this list. And Chimaev with him. I'm more confident in Chimaev, obviously, in my opinion, than Pereira at winning the belt up a weight class. So that's my list. Would win the belt. Khamzat Chimaev and Alex Pereira puts up a good fight, but loses. Jan, Topuria, Islam, and Olberg gets beaten comfortably, potentially stopped. Joshua Van, what's his name? Volkanovski and Justin Gaethje. I could also put Islam up here, only if, like, Chimaev is not the champ, right? But then, like, for Topuria, for example, let's say someone else was the champion that's not Islam. I would still not favor Ilia to win just because of his size disadvantage. But if, you know, let's say Chimaev wins against Strickland, vacates the belt, and now it's like Strickland or Dricus as the champion. I do think Islam will have a very good chance of beating them, but because obviously right now Chimaev is the champion, I don't think Islam will just walk through him. So I do think he puts up a good fight but loses. But let me know what you guys think about this list. What do you think I should change? What do you agree or disagree with? I'll see you next time. See ya.